evening. Who gets your hopes up for a quadruple season in Klopp's last season at Liverpool and then dashes them on the rocks of mediocrity? It's not us, because we didn't do it. We just had to watch it all unfold today. It is the American Scouts from TV Thursday Night podcast, or ASTV, as the cool kids call it. Not a fun week in general in the Macka household, but very not a fun day today. 3-0 against Atalanta, Brian, and we were poor. We were below poor. We said in the pre-match that it could be a toe-to-toe game, and it was. It was just Atalanta were going toe-to-toe with themselves as to how many goals they could score against us. We don't have any fancy graphics tonight, so shocking was the performance, but we're going to talk about the game. We're going to talk about Amorim, and then we're going to talk about the Crystal Palace game at the weekend. But let's start with the I think Alan puts it nicely here. Let's start with the depression part. Good evening to Alan. Brian, what a dreadful performance and what a horrible, horrible result.
It seemed like they were just like going with emotions through the match. I mean, it was a very, very poor performance. I mean, but the thing is, again, we talked right before there with our possession. We had 70% possession in that match. It's another match right there where we're dominating the ball, but we just can't. The end product isn't there anymore. I mean, all the goals have dried up. I don't know I don't really know why they have. I mean, I think that my theories up there about, I think it's a whole lot of overthinking and trying to get perfection right there as to see this whole grand champion of Klopp being set off. I think this caused a lot of pressure. I really do. I think these guys are not good, just going back into just being basic, just play football.
I mean, you probably are in the right region there with that assessment. But does that speak to the inexperience of the players that we brought in compared to, let's say, Mane and Firmino and James Milner and Jordan Henderson, who had got a bit of experience in winning things, so could navigate this kind of a section of a season better than the current boys do?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think in a way you could think about that. We are right now ahead of where we thought we would be at the beginning of the season. I mean, we were basically thinking that, hey, a top 4 finish, maybe competing just a little bit to go into the Champions League spaces, it would be fantastic. I mean, this whole vision that we're going to win a quad, I mean, it just came out of the air right there just because of where we were at through there. I mean, we still got a lot of ways to go right there. I mean, we're not firing all cylinders. I mean, plus, if you think about the season, we've had a scramble in the back line. We've missed basically Allison since February. I mean, you missed Mo a big period of time. You missed Trent a period of time. You missed Robertson a period of time. I mean, you've missed Jones a period of time. You've missed Joe time. I mean, we've been basically dealing with scrambling sides here for almost the whole second half of the season. I mean, so to be where we are right now, I mean, it's not bad. It's decent. I mean, I think that just that us as our expectations, we want more. We think that this is a sign. We saw the cusp of doing this right there, but maybe these players just aren't at that level together as a unit to reach that apex.
Speaking of wanting more, we know the public want more than just us two. We need the usual tree,
hey!
and they say tree in the Irish Dublin way because Trevor is being taken over by the trees. But to be fair, those four trees behind you look like they could do a better job of defending a goal than the back four we had today. Trevor, it was an awful game. Yeah, your little headline says it correctly. That stunk. But why did it stink, do you think?
Just where do you want to start? Missed opportunities, poor defending, unlucky situations. It just ran the gamut, and I've seen a lot of people going, this is the worst total performance under Klopp. I don't want to go that far, but it's got to be close to the medal stand. It was just nothing about it gave me any sense of joy or hope. It was just it stunk.
Brian, let's jump into the topic that we are sort of semi-famous for, apart from breaking technology and unworking software. But Darwin Núñez could have influenced the entire outcome of the game. He was given a peach of a pass by, I believe, Gakpo, if I remember correctly. And he was one-on-one with the keeper. And in my mind, a proper top-class player, or top-class striker, puts that to the left of the keeper and slots it into the far corner. But he doesn't do that. He wallops it, and it bends away from the goal on the near post and out for a goal kick. We get some stick sometimes from the people in the Discord, and a particular one for our treatment of Núñez. But that was everything we talk about, isn't it? His work rate was perfect. He didn't stop running, and we love him for that. But we needed to put the ball in the net in those supposedly bread and butter situations for strikers, don't we?
Hey, did you say the pre-match right there that either we're all for Núñez or we're all against Núñez? There's no middle ground. Well, there is no middle ground right now. I mean, but again, it's like Núñez is just so frustrating. I mean, you can watch one match and he's like pulling out worldies. I mean, going in there and doing everything perfect. But then you go watch another match right there. It's like he can't tie two things together at any moment right there, where he can beat players and also at the same time go out there and score goals, or he can go out there and just like have semi chances and then not score goal. I mean, I can't figure him out. I mean, it's like his work rate is fantastic, but if you're a number 9, that's not what you're there for. You're not there to be for work rate. You're there to score goals. I mean, we defended him, we bashed him, we defended him, we bashed him right there. But I'm just lost with him right there. But even with Núñez right there, at least Núñez tried. I mean, they're there. I mean, I watched another forward we had there kind of jog about after about 15 minutes. I mean, the same thing that we talked about here in the show also. I mean, what do we do? I mean, it's like, I can't just bash Núñez without going after saying, what about Gakpo? I mean, the same thing. I mean, what about him? The same difference. I mean, but opposite effect right there. He doesn't try, and he's got all the skill, all the talent in the world right there, but jogs. I mean, what the hell?
Trevor in the Discord, myself and Suzy were talking about Gakpo for the first 15 minutes. We were talking. We said beforehand we would love to see a season-defining game from him, and for 15 to 20 minutes, he looked up for it, and he looked like he was giving us that season-defining game. And then he stopped. Then it was work to rule. Union rules were off. It's strike time. No scabs at this stadium. And then just stopped altogether, except for, I think, a period in the second half when he decided he felt like it again. I go with Cozzy's philosophy all the time. They're all our players. We want them all to do very, very, very well. But it's really hard to support players who really don't give a crap sometimes, or look like they don't give a crap, isn't it?
Yeah, and the thing with Gakpo that kind of falls at our feet as fans sometimes is that effort, because there's times where you can kind of see people and people try, and I don't want to, I'm going to put this right there, I'm not calling these people the same player. A lot of times people are like, oh, Messi's just walking around. He doesn't look like he's doing anything. And then he just pops up in the right spot, boom, gets a ball, boom, pass, goal, stuff like that. And it happens a lot of times in basketball. It's like, oh, that guy's not getting back on defense. And then all of a sudden you see it's like a cherry pick dunk, blah, blah, blah. There's a method to the madness. With Gakpo, the most frustrating part is there doesn't seem to be any like conservation of energy or trying to just like lull the fullbacks into a false sense of security, and then I'm going to go explode and do this one thing and kind of catch them off guard. He gave us 15 minutes of running today, which is 14 more than we usually get. But past that, there was times where there was, and that is one of the big takeaways for me is how many times there was through balls through. Atlanta was so porous and there were so many chances for us to go get goals, and it just went through to the keeper, or one of the center backs was able to come over and get the ball because the ball would go through, and if Nunez wasn't running on it, Gakpo sure as shit wasn't going to go for it. So, yeah, I really want it to work, just because there's so much positive with Gakpo, with all of his versatility and everything you can do, and just from a technical aspect. But from the mental standpoint, I'm almost past the point where I'm gonna like blame it on a lack of confidence at this point, because it would insinuate that nobody has faith in him, so he can't have faith in himself. He's getting these opportunities. He's getting these plenty of chances to kind of just break himself out of the rut, and I just don't think he can be asked. And that is the part where I'm not entirely done with him, but I'm getting pretty fucking close.
Brian, just on that note, like I know Suzy has talked about maybe being low on confidence and it being a mental thing, but Kamari, not that I would ever dismiss that, and especially from a mental health professional who knows way more about it than I do, but am I being too reductionist here? It seems like anybody who's playing for Jurgen Klopp is not going to be short on confidence. He seems like the ultimate hype man for any player. Like, I mean, he gets young kids coming out from the academy in injury crises and makes them believe from the way they're playing that they're going onto that field thinking they are the best thing that's ever happened to Liverpool Football Club, and then they play like it, and we pull amazing results out of the fire with teams of academy players, pretty much. So for me, surely tell me I'm wrong here, that if you're low on confidence on a Jurgen Klopp team, you have deeper issues that probably should be dealt with away from professional football. And I'm not entirely sure Gakpo has those issues.
As with Gakpo, I think Gapco's out of sync because he's not used to playing this type of a formation. I mean, he's a back to the ball type of forward. I mean, we don't play that way. I think those are things that we're gonna have to that the next manager will probably have to figure out whether that's going to fit his system or not. I mean, I can say the same thing about Gravenberch. I mean, the same thing. I mean, maybe it's a Dutch problem. I don't know. I mean, it's like, because I see the same exact effort for him when he comes on the pitch. So I really don't know yet. I think that Gakpo, as I said right there, is super talented. I mean, he's got all the potential in the world. He's got the right body shape. He's got the right ability to go there to play. He's got more or less that kind of like that Thierry Henry type of like a form and stuff like that with him, where you expect more out of him right there. But I just don't think that maybe a 4-3-3 isn't what he should be playing in. I mean, maybe that's biggest part of the problem. Maybe the next manager comes in and we go there play a different formation. We might see a different Cody Gakpo.
Well, let me ask you this, Brian. There's a story of Ron Yates signing for Liverpool with Bill Shankly. And in those days, we didn't have 24-hour soccer coverage. We didn't have social media. And you pretty much only learned about football from either going live, watching Match of the Day on the weekend in Britain, or reading the papers, essentially. So when he was signing for Liverpool, Bill Shankly said, he asked Bill Shankly, where is Liverpool? And he says he meant where in the country, which also shows that there wasn't enough paper for atlases and geography books, apparently. But he said, whereabouts Liverpool, and meaning where was it? And Bill Shankly said, First Division. And Ron Yates said, I thought you were in the Second Division. And Bill Shankly said, well, we are, but if we sign you, we'll be in the First Division soon enough, which is a great little Bill Shankly story. But we have smartphones, we have Waze and Bing, and we have Google Maps, and we have Live Score when it gets the right formations and the players in the right positions. And we have Wikipedia, and we have the coach's voice. We have so many resources Surely when Gakpo and Gravenberch, well, let's talk about Gakpo because he played. Surely when Gakpo was signing for Liverpool, he knew we played 4-3-3 with a high pressing game and a false nine, and he still said, "Okay, I'm up for that." So in one respect, surely he's at fault for the fact that he can't fit into our system.
Oh, absolutely. When you think about what would happen, we pipped him. We pipped him from Manchester United because he was basically almost crossing the line to go play for them, and we just, it was kind of like I don't know whether it was a one-up deal right there and say, hey, guess what? You're not getting this guy, and we're already signing from underneath your nose type of thing. Or it could have been right there where Klopp was looking for different options. With it, unfortunately, right there, Klopp doesn't play with different options. He plays with a 4-3-3. It's kind of like okay,
That's to our detriment sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. So if you sign a player right there to the same thing we thought about Darwin Nunez. You thought you would probably had like a 4-3-2-1 with Nunez being the top guy in the front right there. Instead, we still play the 4-3-3. Again, it goes with. I guess Gakpo probably knew maybe it was promised something, or maybe it was like going to there. Maybe he saw how Pep Linders was there, that could have been a good connection for him or something like that. I'm not going to really go on. I don't know the entire situation, but it's like maybe right player, wrong spot. Or wrong club. Or wrong club, right player, whatever you want to say it right there with him. Maybe this is a move that this doesn't happen, right? We've done it. We've had players right there, that we moved into Liverpool that just never quite fit in. That went on to other clubs and became superstars. So this happens.
Well, like Trevor, my thing about it is just specifically because he's Dutch is. Every team in Holland plays 4-3-3 exactly how we play it, with the sitting number 6, the 8 and the 10 up ahead of them, and then the 9, the 11 and the 7 on the wings. Are we it's not that I don't want Brian to answer this, but I just want to make sure you didn't turn off your trees in the background for nothing tonight. But are we kind of trying to give him too much of the benefit of the doubt rather than just calling what it is that he's just a lazy so-and-so who signed for money?
And I'll push back on the thing that he doesn't fit the system, because when he first arrived, he kind of did fit. Like he was able to kind of plug and play in a lot of spots. And I don't know where that spark went. I don't know if it's something where he just, because of the situation of how the roster and the injuries were at the time, he was able to come in and kind of just get more run and kind of have a better idea of when and where he was playing on any given week. And when that regularity was taken away from him, he kind of went into a shell and maybe is a bit pouty. I don't know. But just
he is Dutch, to be fair.
Yeah, and it kind of just comes with the territory. But just from the standpoint of watching the game on television, it's something that I yelled at a lot with Trent in terms of effort, where there'll be plays where he gets far up, but then when they're on a break and he doesn't even get into the camera frame to track back, that's a problem in my eyes. There's times where Gakpo will just you'll see the counterattack and you'll see him not trying to go towards the goal. He'll just kind of be he's like a car that lost a wheel and is just kind of he can't go straight anymore. He just kind of has to veer off. And you're trying to figure out, all right, is he trying to just set himself up to be an outlet, or is he just fucking off to the corner because he doesn't want to be a part of it? And there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason to it, because there are times where he'll turn it on for 5 minutes and you go, where the fuck was that for the rest of the game? I don't know what that's the biggest frustration with Cody Gakpo is the effort comes in unschedulable spurts. It'll just be oh, here's 3 minutes at the 40-minute mark. What prompted this? I don't know, but he decided he wanted to try. And then we'll go silent for a half an hour. And you're like, okay, well, and then we'll pop up and make a 40-yard run with the ball and then play something in. And if it doesn't lead to a goal, he'll just go, well, okay, I did my one thing, and just go fuck off again. I don't get I just don't get it. And it's not there's a lot of things that I've seen where like there's a difference between not getting something and not liking something. I like Cody Gakpo. I don't get Cody Gakpo. That's the biggest thing. I don't get where he's coming from.
But even the thing with him, with also, you got to think of how many positions that he's been placed in right there in the past season, basically where he's been played on the left, he's played on the right, he's played as attacking midfielder, he's played in the center. I mean, he's played on the left side of the midfield, the right side. I mean, he's been played every position you can think of that you can play. After a while, your head gets done in. I mean, I think that maybe it's a mental thing. I don't know. Maybe. That could be causing a lot of the problems. I'm not really sure. And plus, also, I think the way we played has changed since last year when we first signed Gapco. I mean, we're not as direct as we were last year. Well, I mean, you can see that on the pitch any given moment. I mean, even on the left side, right there, on the right side, you can see how Mo is not direct anymore. Mo's kind of passive. I mean, with his play. I mean, maybe that's because without having Trent there, that he's allowing things. Maybe he's missing that Henderson holding up that he had before. I don't really know what happened right there, but it's a different type of club that we're playing, that we're seeing at the moment.
Just I don't want to belabor the Gakpo point, but the one pushback I'll have on the position change thing is that, again, he is a Dutch player and they play every position as soon as they start playing. It's not that he's like, if he was an English player, I'd fully be behind that, because they never play any other position and whatever their physical traits like put them in. But in Holland, like they play every position. Like the 4v4 is still their model for training, I believe. So I'm still on the side of that. He saw the opportunity for medals and money at Liverpool that he didn't think he was probably going to get at United, and now we're suffering for it.
Well.
And he should be tarred and feathered and thrown down a well until the start of next season. That's my reason.
Him and Gomez need to go to Swiss Army therapy together. if being able to play a bunch of positions is such a fucking burden, then just, I don't know, go get hypnotized to just. I am a left wing only, and then you just, no matter where he puts you, you just kind of slowly walk over to where you think you should be the entire time.
Yeah. I mean, we should just put them both in goal and say, just use your face like Kelleher does to save everything. That guy had a welt on his face at the end of that. Like, fair play to him, like typical mad Irishman. There's nothing up here. You can hit, you can smack me. The concussion, what's that? Just go ahead, I'll save it here. But let's move on a little bit, because I do want to talk about Salah a little. Like, he comes on the field, and you think, right now things are going. Now we're in business. Now we're going to tie all the knots up together, and it's going to make sense. I just want to point out as well, you can tell the frustration, because there's been probably a higher F-bomb count in this show than there has been in the last 10 episodes put together. So clearly this result has rankled. But Salah, like we talked to me and Brian before we went on air, and I get the feeling that Salah knows he's not here next year. And he's trying to preserve himself, because if he goes like 100%, maybe he risks injury again, and he's getting at that age where injuries could start to pile up. Is it even this late stage in the season, Trevor? Do you think it's time that we should stop looking at Salah as the talisman and maybe start? I mean, Jota's back. He did so much more in the first 5 minutes than pretty much the rest of the forwards put together, except Elliot. I don't know why Elliot was taken off. He did quite a good job. But
had our best effort on goal.
Yeah,
he should have been a goal.
Yeah,
should have been. That was. I mean, I thought it was. Goals are different now. Like the actual construction of them. Like I was watching.
The post had to be a little bit thicker in the Euro.
No. Like I was thinking, like I was watching something about Wimbledon, like the crazy gang, like for when Joe Kinnear died. Like there was a lot of videos about it, but one of them was like the old Premier League goals had the stanchion that went back, so a ball could like hit the back of that and come back out. And because we didn't have like VAR, you wouldn't actually know it hit the back of the net and came back out. And so that's what I thought, just briefly. And then I remembered they're just hung by these flimsy little wires now these days. But Trevor, is it time that we just stop thinking of Salah as the savior of Liverpool and maybe start moving on from that?
I don't think we can kind of entirely take him out of the plans just yet, just because he is just at least for the rest of this one, he's incredibly important to what we do, despite a perceived lack of effort or anything like that. But I agree that, and I've said it in a couple different places where I think he's either said to the higher ups or he just knows in his heart of hearts that this is the end. Like he knows that this is his final run, and he's either going to get a big money move to the Saudi League, or some other or a team in Spain is going to come in and pay him stupid wages to go try to like bolster their chances to dethrone Real Madrid in some way, shape, or form. Or maybe it is Real Madrid going like, let's just do Galacticos all over again. Let's just let throw FFP in the toilet and go that route. But yeah, I'm every time I've seen him, there's just, at least in the past month, there doesn't seem to be much in the way. And I've every time I see Gally coming in the Discord, urgency is the biggest word that I see, because every time Mo gets the ball, you're like, okay, this is the thing. And there's just, as you just talked about, there's no directness anymore. There's always just kind of that timid nature where that just doesn't track with how the Mo Salah that we all know. So you can only try to infer what he does, because nobody knows what his plans are for the future. But just what I pull from it is I think he just knows that it's the end for him.
Brian, I mean, I agree with Trevor that we shouldn't take him out of the equation. But for years, our attack was built around Salah. We may have had Firmino, we may have had Mane, but once we got Salah, the whole point was to free enough space for him to run straight to goal, because we know what was going to happen once he got within 20 yards of the goal. He's going in the back of the net. And Firmino knew that intuitively, so he created the space with all his fantastic movement. Mane knew it and sometimes looked like he resented it, because before Salah came along, he was the one that was going to be the funnel through which all the attacks went. But it worked for us. We got it to work. He doesn't have Firmino and Mane anymore. So is there a point, do you think, in his mentality where he's going, I'm too old to change almost? Like, this is a new setup for me, and now I have to adapt, and I just don't have it in me to do it. So I'll do the best I can, which is fair. He's earned that, but that doesn't help us, does it?
But I mean, with Klopp leaving right there, I think this helps us complete the cycle. I really do. I think that that we're going to see. I think that we're almost at the point where we're going to see him leave, and we're probably going to see one or two others leave from this old guard that Klopp had, that he built up. I think because it's just the nature of the thing. So these players right there have been here. It's time for them to move on. Other career aspirations and things like that come into play. But with Salah right there, I think that if we could get, I hate to say it, but if 85 million is on the plate right there for a 32-year-old, you gotta take it. I'm sorry. I mean, it's kind of something you gotta take. I mean, to move on with. But it's like, I just think that like, I know Trevor and I talked about it right there on Discord, right there, the same thing about, you're gonna see how Mo acts, that that it's different. It's a different thing. I mean, now I mean, and like Bickler said on Monday nights, I'm all for coming to putting Slavo up there in that front right there, and put Elliott right in that spot right behind him. I mean, I think that right there would be a good thing to experiment and try. And if we don't come there and get past this moment, which I think is going to be really, really tough right there to get 4 goals or 3 goals in Italy against somebody. Not to say we can't do it, but I mean, you're going against a team right there who's a 26-game win streak right there at home right now. So I mean, let's start trying things. And I think if we lose touch of the league, then it's time to go there and start looking at what we're going to do next season. What's our future?
Let's kind of take that as the future being a nice segue into the next thing. Okay, so we talked about the idea of the end of a cycle. I agree. I think Salah's gone. I could see Virgil going, or at least saying he has one more season left in him. Possibly Allison.
Yep.
And I would be upset with that, but I think at least Kelleher is not Allison. He never will be Allison, but he's a good enough replacement that we shouldn't have to spend big bucks getting a goalkeeper in unless there's another Allison somewhere. But then after that, I think you start building the team. Maybe Robertson, actually. Maybe he'll go to Celtic finally. And make Brendan. Well, actually, Brendan Rodgers had nothing to do with it, as far as I remember. But he'll make the Celtic hierarchy eat their words. But the rumors are in the at least on the BBC website, which I find to be reasonably reliable, is that Ruben Amorim from Sporting has agreed in principle to be the next Liverpool manager. Trevor, his team play almost a lot like what we faced tonight against Atalanta, but obviously with a lot more defensive structure. But it is pretty much like I said in the Discord channel, this is what it must feel like to play against Liverpool, because they may have left gaps, but they do that intentionally because they play 1v1 defense and pressing right around the field. So it's going to leave gaps, but they were so effective at it. That they as we said, they could have scored 5. We weren't at the races, and you don't really want to be not at the races when you have a team that aggressive. If it's Amorim, is this a good thing in your book? We discussed the whole Xabi Alonso thing to death, but this is the new kid on the block. He looks like he's an exciting coach, but so did Brendan Rodgers before we got him. What is your feelings on it?
Yeah, so and I get what he's doing right now, where you see the press conferences where he's shooting down all the stories, because you kind of don't want to do that to your team as it stands, unless was kind of like a succession plan in place. And as soon as like Klopp announced his departure, like the next day it was, okay, Amorim's the guy. But now there's been such a gap in between those, like these rumors and and that announcement, that I know where he's coming from, where even if there is something in place, he can't really come out and say it right now. But from what I've seen from how Sporting plays, because you hear the rumors, so you got to go kind of do your research as best you can. It is one of those things where he tries to just make the most of his players' ability to run and the depth of his squad, and just he kind of, it's not as heavy metal football as Klopp's, but it does take advantage of athleticism, and it's something where he wants guys that will just go for it. And I think this team, especially with the midfield overhaul this past year, really will work with what he wants to do, where he just constantly wants to go get the ball back and go do something positive with it. And for all the positive things that this team does with the ball, if we can't put it in the back of the net, it doesn't matter what philosophy you have. It doesn't matter what your play style is. If you just spurn chances for fun, I don't know what manager you could bring in that is going to cure that deficiency.
Brian, do you think if Amarin does come in, if that rumor is indeed true, that he will be looking at that because he's not going to like we said about Gakpo. There's enough information out there that he's not going to make an agreement in principle, which means he must have had talks, which means he must have looked at Liverpool and had a look at the roster and see what he has and looked how everybody played. Is it possible that he may have an agreement, not just to go there, but to maybe take one of the two attackers from Sporting winning because he knows they can fit into his system?
I'd be more excited to see Inacio than see an attacker, because I think that's a very healthy defender right there. That was something that we have issues with all the time. I mean, because honestly, right there, we can't get a string of games with Konate. I mean, so that's a problem. I mean, Matip is gone. I mean, we have a kid in Kwanzaa right there, and if he comes in, he plays with a back three. So we gotta have a solid defender to go there to match that up right there. So that's what I'm more excited about. Now, his forwards that he has, I mean, yeah, they're used to playing his system right there. But I think that we have, I guess it'd be depend on right there on what's going to happen with Mo and that situation there, and also Diaz, because there's rumors back and forth about Diaz too. Let's see what's going to happen there. I mean, so again, I think every player is going to get the opportunity to start off with, but I think that what's going to happen right there is he's going to start weeding people out. But I'm sure that he's going to want to bring in at least 2 or 3 of his players right there, because every manager that comes there usually tries to bring a player that understands his system. I mean, Klopp did it. I mean, they've all done it right there. That's what happens with it. I mean, Brendan Rodgers did. The only person that didn't bring it was Hodgson. He brought in people who were just as clueless as he was.
I mean, he brought in Paul Konchesky.
Yeah.
Come on. And Christian Poulsen.
Don't talk bad about Paul Konchesky. His mom will come looking for him.
But Trevor, like we can see as supporters that the deficiency isn't the system so much. We still press well for the most part, but I believe that when you press, apart from the starts has to be something to do with the warm-ups, as far as I'm concerned, or the pre-game team talk, because we start so slow sometimes. Like, either the warm-ups are too intense, or they're not intense enough, or Klopp is literally just, and we'll find this out when that documentary comes out on Amazon, but he's literally just going out and go, right, there's a game starting, see it in 45 minutes, or something to that effect. But we can see what the deficiencies are, and it's maybe not enough pressure on Núñez to put those chances away. Maybe it's not enough threat to Gakpo to get his head together, or support if he needs the support. Maybe there's not enough pressure put on Van Dijk to, if he can't do it physically anymore, maybe start being more of a leader and organise those who can at the back. Midfield, I don't think we've had too much of a complaint about. Endo, McAllister, Jones before his injury, or Endo, McAllister, Szoboszlai when he's on form, or Elliott. There's a lot of permutations in there that I think any manager would love to work with. But I mean, he has to come in with a plan, doesn't he? If he's coming in that says the problem is you've stopped scoring goals and you've started conceding them, and we need to reverse that, because nobody's winning anything with that kind of strategy, are they?
Yeah, and it seems overly simplistic to just say, "Hey, score more goals and give up less," but to come in and have like a strategy to combat those problems is probably got to be the biggest thing. If Amarim's the guy in his pitch to be the next manager, because there has to be something that somebody sees as to why these things are happening, and to like us lay people, you're going, well, this guy just doesn't do this, that, or anything. It could be something in their just their positioning, in the way they're just the way they do this, that, or the other thing, that a manager that has kind of been in that can see. I'm of the thought process that there's only so much a manager can come do to like help a guy that's in like say Gakpo's position where you can only build him up so much, or if he's a guy that needs to be torn down and built back up, so on and so forth. You can only do that. There has to become some agency from the player to just take control of what they do on the pitch. I don't know what this will look like next year, but there has to be changes in how the players are deployed or how they are not necessarily treated, but how they are coached, so to speak.
Brian, Sporting play. We won't talk too much about the defense because I think when we talk about how Sporting play under Amram, with the point you made earlier, you will be more clear. But they play a 3-4-2-1, which reminds me actually of the Brendan Rodgers 2014-15 season when he had that 11-game winning run, unbeaten run, pardon me, when he finally figured out how to cope without the strikers, because we had none. People forget that as much as we might criticize him, but he had no Daniel Sturridge and he had no Luis Suarez, and he had to put Sterling and Lallana as his two strikers at some points in the season. But he played with back three with Emre Can, if you remember, as the the central defender coming out from the back, which was fantastic. And then he had Lallana and I want to say Henderson maybe, or Sterling behind whoever was up front.
I think it was Henderson.
And yeah, I mean, it worked. He got something to work. And a much better, a much more technical and a much more robust version of that, and a much more aggressive pressing version of that is what Amram seems to play. So let's forget about the back three, because we know we're going to have to buy another defender to make that happen. But with the current players, we play with wing backs already naturally, even though we don't play a wing back formation. Who are the four and who are the two attacking mids or shadow strikers, whatever they're called, and who's the number 9 in an Amram system with what we have right now?
I think Nunez definitely is your number 9, because I think Nunez is going to prosper under Amram. I think that he's he's used to it. He's probably like, hey, this is the way I'm used to playing. I think right behind them, right there, depending on who you have, I think that Harvey would be a good person to be behind him. Same thing probably with Diaz right there, or even would work in that, or Jota right in that spot right there, being kind of like a more of a fox in a box type player right there, who you could go through and run through there. Now, McAllister definitely has to be a centerpiece of this midfield, in my opinion. So same thing. I think that Curtis Jones would be more or less your kind of to take place right there of a Harvey Elliott kind of player. I think my reservations would be Endo. I think that Endo will work, but I think that Endo also right there, how much more legs do we have in Endo right there? So I think that may be a potential to go back and buy somebody who you can play in a double pivot. I mean, so because I think I think Gravenberch could probably work also that double pivot. So I think that we're going to see a little bit of I think we got the players to make it work. Slavosai is going to be the one to be really interesting to figure out what we can do with him, because I think he likes to run out wide in there. I think he's an attacking player, more of an attacking player, where him and Harvey could probably play off each other. I mean, as far as like in their positions with there, but I'm not really sure who would win out of that, because I think that Harvey is more productive than Slavosai. I think Slavosai is a over-trier and tries to be more of a playmaker, but he doesn't really make plays. You get what I'm saying right there, where he goes out and takes a shot outside the box where, Kazi and everybody else like that would go bananas on Discord every time he does it, So I think the midfield right there, honestly, I think, you got to have McAllister, and McAllister is like, to me, is the kingpin of that midfield.
It'd be interesting to see. I think there's a lot of options and possibly a potential for a lot of disappointed players. But let's before, because we have the EPL fantasy show tonight, so let's move. We got to move. We could talk about this for hours because our computers seem to be working tonight on the one night we probably don't want them to.
Wow.
So here's what we have again.
Technology.
Yeah, seriously, damn you. Damn you all to Dell, etc. So we have a game on Sunday, Trevor. It's against Crystal Palace. We're not going to go into the tactical things about it. I don't think there's any need tonight to talk about formations and selections and all that. Here's my question to both of you, but we'll start with you, Trevor. It's not a question, it's a statement, and I want to see what you have to say about it. We have to win. We have to win well after today, don't we?
Yeah, and with Palace kind of always being that specter of the past of a team that where we've been on the precipice of glory, and they've just kicked us down the stairs. I will never be able to look at Dwight Gale with anything but disdain for what Crystal Palace has done to me as a fan. And I think the biggest part of that statement I agree with is you got to win decisively. This can't be a thing where I'm showing up to the bar late as I always do, and it's 7 minutes in, and I look at the screen and it's 1-0. That can't happen. This has to kind of just be a line in the sand. Can we just spew out all the cliches possible type of game where you kind of need to go in there and impose your will and go get 3 points and do it emphatically.
Brian, it's one thing to say, that these players have earned the right to have a bad game. And certainly they have for a lot of reasons. But if they have any ambitions to win the league, and the 2 trophies that they're still in, and given how bad the performance was today, fatigue or not, they really do owe the fans some sort of performance after what they were given today, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. They need to be all in. I mean, there's no ways about it. You have to be all in. I expect right there to be our strongest lineup that comes out, and everybody has to know that they owe it to us right there to go there to play a lot better than what they did in this match against Atalanta. I think that they have to win. And we all know that they have to win. They really need to pull a miracle. They need to win on Sunday, and they need to pull a miracle on Thursday, right there to kind of justify what we saw today.
Trevor, if the game was away at Crystal Palace, it might be a different story. But because the Atalanta performance, and vice versa, if the game was in Italy today, but it wasn't. It was at Anfield, and the very next game is at Anfield. There's a lot of talk about the crowd today and about the whole flags and banners thing. And as long as there's no repeat of that kind of scenario on Sunday, Anfield really should be rocking, shouldn't it? I mean, it should give the atmosphere that we've come to expect on European nights that the players didn't get tonight. I don't want to let them off the hook by saying they had nothing to feed off, but it must be a lot easier to combat like a bad performance when you have a crowd roaring you on for every second of every minute of the game. So Anfield could be just as important as the players, couldn't it, this weekend?
Yeah, and I don't want to downplay how much the atmosphere helps the squad, because if you talk to pretty much every single opposing player of any substance over the course of the past 50 years, they'll tell you how just absolutely just it can shatter you. The Anfield atmosphere can just break you from the start, and to not kind of have that because of its being that the whole supporter squabble with the tickets and such. And yeah, that's a bit of mistimed things, and there's a whole different avenue of conversations to go with that. But yeah, and it's something where Crystal Palace is going to be coming in. They're pretty much safe. They're not going to try to do anything outside of their character. So just put them away. There's nothing to. If there's a slow start, there's no excuse. You don't have anything. You're not traveling back from Italy. It's not a team that's fighting relegation or is trying to make a push for one of those lower European spots. There's nothing there. You just have to go win. And anything less than that is going to be viewed as a failure from. And the statement that you guys said is like, we deserve as fans. They owe it to themselves. They owe it to Klopp. They owe it to just everybody in that organization that has put this team together.
The sick kids.
Yeah.
They owe it to the sick kids.
Just they need to just kind of have that introspection of, all right, we were talking about the quad for so long. All right, one of those things is gone. Is this just going to fall apart? Like, is this going to just be the saddest erosion of joy? It's like, oh my God, we're going to send Jurgen off with this great send off, and we're going to do all these things, and we're going to fight on all fronts. And is it all just going to get pissed away this sloppily without a fight? That's just such a shitty way to go out.
Yep.
We'll just do quick score predictions because we'll do that at the pre-match, I'm sure, as well. Anyway, but Brian, what's a quick score prediction for this game?
4-0. I think we're going to come back and show it right there. My only fear right there is Elise being healthy. That's the only fear I have. But yeah, I think we're going to come back and show her and show that and give the fans what they want. 4-0.
Trevor?
Timuchin special. I cannot, in good conscience, predict a clean sheet until I see one.
I'll predict a clean sheet at the end of the game when we get one. That's what I'm going to do. Anyway, 5 seconds before the final whistle, the ball is in the corner. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go 5-0. A Macka special because I think they're gonna have to do something.
And that vaunted Darwin hat trick, it's coming.
It's coming, and no better game for it. So that's a wrap for the Thursday night podcast. Ask for Tinnipa. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Trevor, as always, for the company and the thoughts. And no donuts this week because Man United and Liverpool decided that my blood sugar was more important than points, thankfully. But we have our EPL fantasy show, if you're into that, on immediately afterwards, so make sure you stick around for that. We have our morning coffee in the morning, probably a pre and post match on Sunday, and all the other good content. Make sure you like us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, X, formerly known as Prince, and all of the other social medias, and also our all-important Patreon. Sign up for that and get all the good stuff that we have going on that. It just remains to say thank you for joining us, as always, on American Scouser TV. And as is famously done on our games, with Timuchin and his dogs getting snacks, a little thing about our pets. They are our family, and when they go, it hurts. So make sure you give them all the snacks and all the hugs. Yep. Even when Darwin Núñez doesn't score any goals when he has a 1v1 with the keeper, and drives
a smaller treat when he hits the woodwork.
Give you a smaller treat and then throw it at his face and then miss it. Just in the spirit of Darwin Núñez.
Throw it off a door frame.
Off a door frame, yeah. But we will see everybody next Thursday, as always, and hopefully, are we playing next Thursday or are we playing in 2 weeks?
No, next Thursday.
Next Thursday. Yeah. So hopefully we'll have a much happier Thursday show next week, and we will have a good result.
Less cussing.
Less cussing.
Yes,
less cussing and possibly more donut eating. We'll have to talk about that one. So for everybody else, have a good one. Stick around for the next show and have a good weekend. And we will see everybody next Thursday. Peace out.